Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a truly fascinating historical account. We're looking at the life of a guy who managed a balancing act that honestly seems almost impossible today. I'm talking about mastering absolutely mind-boggling worldly wealth while still maintaining this profound spiritual devotion and total self-sacrifice.
Imagine arriving in a totally new city as a refugee, completely penniless. $0 to your name. Yet, from absolute zero, our subject to date built an absolute financial empire from scratch. Born into the elite of his society, he was a man of extreme contrasts. You see, he faced intense persecution for his beliefs, which forced him to flee his home multiple times before having to start entirely over.
But here's the thing, he possessed such an incredible Midas touch and relentless business acumen that he later summed up his phenomenal economic success with this famous quote. He said, "If I had to lift a stone, I hope to find underneath it gold or silver." Like, wow, it's just an astonishing statement that perfectly captures his unbelievable financial trajectory.
We're going to trace this incredible rags to riches to purpose story through 6 key phases. 1. Early conversion and sacrifice. 2. The trustworthy businessman. 3. Generosity and philanthropy. 4. Valor on the battlefield. 5. Wisdom and leadership. And finally, 6. An enduring legacy.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Early Conversion and Sacrifice.
The historical sources show us that Abdul Rahman was one of the very first converts to Islam. Actually, he was among the first 8. But, this commitment came at a really heavy price. Facing immense harassment back in Mecca, he was forced to migrate 3 separate times, twice to Abyssinia and finally making the Hijrah to Medina. And to do this, he literally had to leave his accumulated wealth entirely behind. He arrived in this new city with completely empty hands.
Moving right along to Section 2, The Trustworthy Businessman.
What's really striking here is the contrast in this famous historical interaction. When he got to Medina, he was paired with a wealthy local named Sa'd ibn al-Rabi, who incredibly offered him half of his family and wealth. Half. But Abdul Rahman's response beautifully illustrates his fierce independence. He just politely declined and said, "May Allah bless you, just show me the marketplace." He absolutely didn't want a handout, he just wanted an opportunity.
And an opportunity is really all he needed. He went straight to the market and humbly started trading basic, everyday goods, specifically cheese and butter. Through pure hustle and sharp trading, he swiftly rebuilt his financial independence from the ground up. In fact, within just a few days, he had earned enough profit in gold to pay a marriage dowry and start a family in his new home. Talk about a quick turnaround.
Which brings us to Section 3, Generosity and Philanthropy.
So all this newly acquired wealth was never just hoarded away. Instead, he became a massive economic pillar of early Islam. To really wrap your head around the sheer magnitude of his charity, consider this fact. On just a single day, he purchased and freed 30 slaves. 30! Just let that scale sink in for a second.
And it's wild how rapidly his donations escalated from there. The sources record him giving away 4,000 silver coins, and then later 40,000. At one point, he sold a piece of land for 40,000 gold points, distributing every single bit of it to the needy and the prophet's wives. I mean, the sheer scale of this philanthropy is absolutely breathtaking.
Yet, despite financing entire armies and giving away massive orchards, he stayed so deeply grounded. There's this story where one day he was presented with a rich, luxurious meal and he just began to weep. He remembered a fallen comrade, Mus'ab ibn Umair, who was killed in battle and was so poor they didn't even have enough cloth to properly shroud his body. He wept, saying, "I fear that our good deeds have been hastened for us in our worldly life." Think about that. In our modern world, which is so obsessed with hoarding wealth, he actually saw his riches as a heavy, terrifying responsibility, not just some personal luxury.
All right, let's look at Section 4, Valor on the Battlefield. Because while he was a titan of finance, he was also a super courageous warrior who put his life on the line. At the pivotal Battle of Badr, resources were so incredibly tight that he actually shared a single camel with Abu Bakr and Omar. During that battle, he was instrumental in pointing out key enemy leaders like Abu Jahl to the younger fighters and was directly involved in the fierce combat with Umayyah ibn Khalaf. But it was really at the Battle of Uhud where his physical sacrifice is the most staggering. The sources note that he stood firm when the lines broke, sustaining an unbelievable 21 wounds. 21! These injuries left him with a permanent limp and missing his 2 front teeth. He literally carried the physical scars of his devotion for the rest of his life.
Now on to Section 5, Wisdom and Leadership.
Beyond business and battle, his peers frequently relied on his sharp intellect and his memory of the Prophet's teachings. For example, when Caliph Omar and others were debating what a person should do if they doubt how many cycles of prayer they've completed, it was Abdul Rahman who stepped in with the definitive answer. He recalled this exact three-step procedure. Step 1, settle on the lesser certain number of rak'at. Step 2, complete the prayer based on the certainty. And Step 3, perform 2 prostrations before the final salam. His precise memory settled the legal debate right there on the spot.
This wisdom also shows up in huge, high-stakes crises. When Caliph Umar's army was heading towards Syria and heard about a plague, the leadership was completely divided on what to do. Abdul Rahman decisively resolved this massive dispute by recalling a specific quarantine protocol taught by the Prophet. It went like this: if you hear of a plague in a land, do not enter it. But if it breaks out where you already are, do not flee from it. It's a localized quarantine protocol that sounds remarkably familiar to us today, right? And it allowed the army to retreat with a clear conscience, no doubt saving countless lives.
Which leads us to our final part, Section 6, An Enduring Legacy. When he passed away at the age of 75, the estate he left behind was historically unprecedented. Let's look at how his wealth continued to serve the community. His financial bequests were just staggering. He left 400 gold coins to every single surviving veteran of Badr, which was about 100 men. He bequeathed a wildly high-value orchard worth 400,000 to the Prophet's wives, and a massive fortune of 80,000 coins to each of his own 4 widows.
And his physical estate, equally jaw-dropping. He left behind a massive livestock operation. We're talking 1,000 camels, 100 horses, and 3,000 sheep. But honestly, the most vivid detail from the historical texts is that he left behind so much raw gold that men actually had to cut it with axes to distribute it. They were chopping so much solid gold that their hands physically bled. It's an almost unimaginable scale of wealth. Looking at this astonishing historical journey, it really leaves us to ponder a profound question. How does one balance immense material success with unwavering ethical and spiritual conviction? Abdul Rahman ibn Auf reached the absolute pinnacle of wealth, yet never lost his grounding humility. He chose to use his empire to uplift everyone around him, treating his money as a tool for good rather than just a personal prize. It's a remarkable legacy that totally challenges our modern notions of what money is actually for. So what do you think? How can we apply that level of purpose to our own lives today? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this incredible life story leaves you inspired to dig even deeper.